The brothers WISP. The brothers WISP, brothers WISP. The brothers WISP. The brothers.
You're now listening to Greg. It's the Brothers Wisp. Let's take a ride.
Hey everybody, this is Greg with the Brothers Wisp number 118. I take it back. Do over. It's 118. Thank you guys for joining us today. We have a brand new face. Unless you are part of the Little Brothers Wisp Slack, then you recognize this face. We have Sean Scarfo with us today.
Hello everybody.
Sean, where are you from? I have no idea.
I currently reside in Leesburg, Florida, which is like a suburb of Orlando.
Oh, Flow Rider.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Florida?
Oh God, since 2003. It's been forever.
Yeah. So yeah, you're from Florida now. That's your home. That's where you that's where you reside. You're a Florida man now.
Yeah.
I think Florida man on my birthday, he was it was a guy like standing out of his sunroof driving with his feet. I think that was mine. That was my Florida. You know, like where you Google Florida man and your birthday? That was mine. Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Let's see. It was a caddy too, so you know, even better. Today we also have Mikey with us. Mikey from Chicagoland. What's up, dude?
Oh, just living somebody's dream.
Living somebody's dream. Well, I mean, it could be a dream, could be a nightmare, right? It could be anything. I think you're doing better than you let on.
Well, I don't share half the bad stuff.
Smart man.
Well, how are you? How are you bouncing back from the heart attack and all that good stuff?
Good. I mean, other than being a little tired most afternoons, which I almost blame on the on the cocktail of medications that I'm on.
Right.
Really not much different than normal.
All right. Good deal. You still seem like a weirdo, so I guess everything's normal.
Yeah, I mean, if I lost that, I don't know what I would have.
That's your trademark, bud. I get it. All right. Well, let's get the vegetables out of the way so we get to the dessert. So we have a couple of sponsors, same sponsors we've had for a while now. So we have Cambium. It is the EPMP bundle. Man, I've got it way over here on the screen. I got to look crazy sideways. So for some reason in this, they said they started with Howdy Partners. I'm not sure. Do they think because I'm from Texas, that's how I talk? I don't know. But apparently people, I heard that people in Germany think everybody from Texas rides horses and stuff like that. And I really don't know hardly anybody who does. That's Wyoming, man. I think those are the cowboys, right?
I know people in Texas that ride horses.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the
I guess you don't know the right Texans.
I mean, I know a couple, but it's not like we ride them to the store or anything. Like, it's ridiculous. So, Cambium has the EPMP bundle. It is number one, first and foremost, it's a price discount. So $6,000 value. You're looking at right under $2,000, 6 months of Visp.net automation and billing. You also get RF Elements twist horns, which are the new hotness. No, they're not new hotness. They're still the hotness, but they aren't new. They've been around for a while. They're proven technology. People seem to really enjoy them, and you will too. You also get 2 hours of one-on-one with an EPMP engineer. No sales pitch. Just cut straight to your questions with real answers. So we have a link in the description, so be sure to pop down there. Next, we have Sonar.software. It is a scalable, intuitive, and comprehensive ISP billing and operational support system. So pop over to Sonar.software. Check those cats out. All right. You guys ready to jump in?
Yep.
All right, both feet. So we have some Mikrotik stuff to start out with. Mikrotik is always my favorite thing to talk about because I like routing and you get to route on their stuff. So we had some new, I think it was the new beta? It's the new beta. Pretty sure it was the new beta. They have the CRS
7.1 beta something or other, I think.
Yeah, something in there. Well, no. They had the one that's got the CRS300 series initial bridge port extender support. So that's 802.1BR. That's where you can use some of the CRS300 series devices as additional ports on your existing infrastructure, right? So I think it works on the CCR2004s and maybe some other models. So like the 2004s, you can have the CRS300xx series act as additional ports. So in the 2004, you just log into your Winbox interface, and then all of a sudden you've got all of these extra ports that magically appear. So it's pretty neat. It is
As routable interfaces or switch interfaces?
I'm not sure. I'm not going to even lie on that one. I was assuming that you would get to use them as routed interfaces, but I am not 100% on that. I would assume you could treat them. Well, I mean, why assume? I have no idea. I don't even pretend to speculate because I've never actually used that. I know there's some other vendors. Thrift was talking about, I think, Nokia that uses this fairly efficiently. So there's good hopes of this. Since it is a beta feature, I guess that would be neat to play with in the lab, but I wouldn't suggest you throw it out in production just yet. Mikey likes to throw caution to the wind. I know he had a extreme switch fail, so he's dying to try out all the new features in its stead, right?
Yeah, well, and that switch was a bit long in the tooth. It was like when I was first talking to Thrift about like my hardware and stuff. We're talking 6-7 years ago. He was like, "Wow, that's a really old switch." But it's a switch. It just works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I guess also, if you use this thing in it says initial bridge port extender. So that makes me think layer 2. I think you might be onto something, Sean, there. Bridge port extender. I wonder, does that allow you to do like multi-chassis lag, MLAG? Can you do that through this thing? I don't know. Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I
I guess
no
that
idea.
was in the 6 series. I thought it was in the 7 beta, but no, it's 6.48.
Yeah. It's the 6 stuff. And then because it's something you could use possibly close to production at this point. I mean, I think I would let them kind of iron out the kinks with it for a little while first. As one is wont to do. But definitely interested in playing with it in the lab at some point. Might make things a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have in Mikrotik news? I've seen some reports on the CCR2004s. They're starting to kind of roll in, and I think they're verified in the forums that the 2004s are starting to see a few lockups. So I'm not sure what the cause of those are. It's not the same architecture as the 4011s, which obviously have been having problems. I've also heard somebody report one of their 1100 X4s, which is the same architecture as the 4011, starting to do kind of some similar lockup stuff. So I'm just not really sure what's going on. Of course, the 2004, it's brand new, so you would expect a few quirks out of the brand new hardware. So I would anticipate them ironing that stuff out pretty soon. One can hope.
And of course, all the bad stuff about the 2004 comes out about a week after my order of 4 of them gets delivered.
Well, it's it's a beautiful piece of hardware. I had been looking forward to using them as well. I'm just going to wait until they iron out the kinks, and then I'll go ahead and put them in. I'm still using like an old 1036. Not that I was going to replace it just yet, but I like to have a spare on the shelf for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where I was looking to use them was in I think I have some hex S's in place in some central offices. They support 48 volt, and my testing with my multimeter showed that I don't remember what it was for sure, but like that the negative voltage didn't go to the ground connector or something like that. I can't remember. I just at the time I knew what I was talking about. But my intent there was to make sure that it would work in a minus 48 volt plant instead of a positive 48 volt plant.
Gotcha.
And they've been running, but I would like to get something that's supposed to be working on a minus 48 volt plant, and perhaps has 2 power supply inputs. So I got those, and I got a whole bunch of DC power supplies, and now they're just sitting there, waiting for me to figure out what I'm going to do with them.
Gotcha. I'm sure they'll get the kinks ironed out in a couple of revisions, whatever it happens to be. Software revisions, hopefully, not necessarily hardware. All right. So what else? What else was there? Didn't they just release Wireguard?
Yep.
Yep.
7.1 beta 8.
Right.
It's 7.1 beta.
I know we've talked ad nauseum about that one, and Thrift keeps posting screenshots of like 400 megs of throughput using WireGuard on one of the betas. So he's definitely one of the, squeaky wheels as far as adding WireGuard support goes. It's probably a nice way of saying he's being annoying. But yeah, he's definitely been looking forward, and I'm actually looking forward to it. It seems like a really convenient alternative for VPN client aggregation. So
yeah,
like Road Warrior type of stuff. So looking to actually put it through its paces. I'm not interested in using E7 code yet, so I'm going to be one of those folks lagging, right? Because all that stuff is still beta. There's not like an official release yet on any of that.
Sure, yet. And also in the 7.1 beta 2 release was layer 3 hardware offloading support for a whole bunch more of the CRS3 series. 3 different models listed, and someone had posted some links to some various snippets in the forum, because one of the models that supported is the CRS3xx 24s plus, something, so on, so on. Not the 24G, which is the one that's been around longer and more people are likely to have. And someone from Mikrotik was saying that that the older 326 has an older chipset, so it's not as advanced, but it still has some hardware capability. So that said, we may see layer 3 hardware routing on on the $200 Mikrotik.
Yep.
And that would be amazing. Somebody was saying like it has limited numbers of routes, like 1,000 or something like that. I'm like, well, for most WISPs, if it's not like a BGP edge or core, 1,000 routes is fine. And so now you don't need anything bigger than a CRS326 in your network, because it'll do wire speed routing at that point.
Yep.
Booyah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what comes of everything. If it's just now being announced, just now getting used, I definitely encourage you guys to be the guinea pigs, not me. I'm not going to use any of that stuff in production for quite a while until all the kinks get ironed out. I know there's a lot of people that are champing. It's champing. It's not chomping. I looked it up one time. It's champing at the bit for that technology. So hopefully we'll see something soon. All right.
And just to recap for those that I'm quite sure, how, since these aren't going to have capabilities, any of these won't have capabilities for full routes. Why that, why you would care if it can't do full routes, other than just internal routes is, I would be looking to put one, say in front of my x86 or CHR edge routers, and these ones then had all of the IX and other peering routes. I'm not going to have on the bigger ones. I think they support like 30,000 routes or something like that, or 100,000 routes, which is fine for a peering router. So send my traffic through that. It pulls everything off wire speed, and then let the general purpose compute handle whatever's not being done by peering, and your load will drop a lot. Well, if you have good peering, I guess.
They make, I guess you could use them as tower routers, right? Just high density, high port density tower routers. Now they've actually got the capability to do the routing that's required, so you could offload that. I guess it just depends, right? If you're doing extra stuff like PPPoE concentration there, maybe that's going to be too much for the device because it's all going to hit the CPU. I mean, it's just, it just sort of depends on your use case.
Sure. I've been hearing of a lot more WISPs moving. I mean, not all of them are, but, many are moving to, 2 devices at a tower, be it 2 routers or a router and a switch. And so, you could have one of these as your, central, say backhaul and, whatnot, local site access router, and then something with fewer ports, bigger CPU to do all the triple PoE concentration and queues and, firewalls and whatever else. Of course, bigger CPUs relative,
All right. Well, how about some more troubleshooting stuff on the side? Who was it? I think it was Simon. I think Simon said that we should take a look at the NLNOG Ring. It's really interesting concept. It's basically a bunch of shared SSH terminals just kind of floating around out on the internet that you can connect to and do troubleshooting from. The trick is to gain entrance to that. You got to put a little skin in the game, so you have to offer up a node. Some of the minimum requirements are 1 global IPv4 reachable, 1 IPv6 reachable, no filtering. They're basically going to log in and kind of take care of it for you. Just throw kind of a Ubuntu server out there. They say 1 core, 20 gigs, 1 gig of RAM, so it doesn't really need much. 10 megabits of network connectivity. What's funny is I've used services like Site 24/7, and I've seen just recently somebody was asking about alternatives to that. So the idea that you get these geographically dispersed nodes that are testing to your equipment, kind of I guess like ThousandEyes sort of does. I wonder if you could use this to kind of rig your own version, where it would connect to these remote probes and do some automated testing for you. That'd be pretty cool. But I checked out their map too that they have, and there's a few folks here in the States. So even if you're, I know this is NLNOG, but even if you're over here in the US, there's actually some value you can get from it. So you can hit some of the local nodes at least.
Yet, I've known of this for an extremely long amount of time, because Job Schneider's does a lot of work with NLNOG, and he's pretty much everywhere. He's at all the major conferences and mailing lists and OpenBSD development and this. So he gets around, and so that's how I found out about it.
Very cool. So if you guys have interest, pop in there. I wonder if we should look at maybe kind of like, no, I was gonna say making our own version of that, but I don't want to be responsible for people's security. I don't want to deal with that. So I'll let other folks take care of all that. Let's see. It was
There's interesting people that host this stuff too. See, Comcast is hosting some of the nodes.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's an interesting mix.
So let's see what else we have. Jeremy from Australia. I think he lives over in Perth. Isn't that the one out on the west coast? So he linked us to hyperglass.io. It's a looking glass server that you can kind of run on your infrastructure, and it's got kind of a really pretty template that it uses. Still in progress. So it's kind of a new project. I think there's probably a couple of quirks here and there, but it's still pretty neat to check out. And it looks like it functions. What does it support? Cisco iOS, of course, Juniper, Arista, Huawei, Vios, Bird. No Mikrotik support yet. Maybe they'll get there eventually. But yeah, I don't know. Just a little interesting to put out there. A lot of the carriers will have their own versions of looking glasses out there that you can connect to. Right in a looking glass is the ability to see what the routing table looks like from somebody's perspective somewhere in their network. So a lot of them will put it on their backbone routers, and you can connect into their looking glass and try and divine what's going on with your issues when you're having routing problems. And a lot of them will let you do pings and trace routes as well. And this one does that exact thing. So run your own inside. That always made me curious. I always, like when I was at Fiberton, I always questioned whether I should run a public-facing looking glass. So it's like because I would do some weird kung fu in there sometimes with the forward-looking route optimizer and stuff like that. And I was thinking it might actually make it a little bit easier for those guys to see what's going on. So if the optimizer does something suboptimal, they could look at it really quick and let me know about it. I was just thinking, would this cause more problems than it would solve? I'm not sure. So I never actually got around to putting one up. I was also worried that's like, what happens if this thing gets compromised? I know it's got very limited access to the rest of my network, but it still, kind of made me nervous. So would you be interested in running one, Mike?
Sure. Yeah. I didn't immediately realize that it was open to like I'm behind one topic, but yeah, no, it's I'm still reading about the NLNOG. So for the exchange, we've been intending to launch Looking Glass servers for the IXs. Say intending because I have lots of stuff to do and I don't do it. But that might happen now that we've kind of subbed some of that work out to somebody else.
Nice.
In terms of my other networks, I can't see that anybody would care. Residential, small business, none of them are going to know what a Looking Glass is.
Yeah. I mean, if you're mostly just picking up eyeballs, it's probably not a big deal if you don't have a lot of business customers. I could see, I could actually see an IX maybe gaining a little business from that. You could pop in and see, wow, these guys have a lot of routes. I could offload a lot and then encourage me to jump on your network. I could see that being a good thing. All right. Let's see. Mikey put up something about a Facebook WISP Talk poll. What's the story there? You have 2 polls, I think you linked.
Yeah. So there's a camp of of operators, I guess they're not all necessarily small, that are just dead set against, buying transport to a data center to then either buy transit or, more than one upstream provider, because it's just more complicated. They just want someone to bring it to their door, or they weren't big enough. And there's quite a few, that say that until you're at a couple thousand customers, a lot of this doesn't make any sense. And for some kind of research that we were doing for the exchange, for some attempts at marketing. No, I'm not just harvesting the list of people that respond. We thought, okay, well, what size of operator is even interested in this? And we were thinking that, until you're at, over 500, probably even 1,000 customers, a lot of WISPs don't even look at that. And these polls have proven me wrong.
Yeah, very wrong. I'm looking at that. That's interesting. So you have one here that says, how many customers did you have or do you plan to have when you first get transport to a data center instead of local DIA? To me, that's pretty interesting. You say 0 to 500, 1,000 to 2,000, blah, 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 down the list. And it looks like 0 to 500 has 55 votes, which is more than all of the rest combined, which surprises me. I wouldn't have thought, because it seems like normally just getting local DIA is less expensive than trying to get transport, right? Because it's not just transport. You got to get transport. If you're going to connect to multiple carriers, you got to get a little bit of equipment there, right? You got to put a rack in, you got a piece of gear there, and then you're pulling in those multiple connections, so you're looking at cross-connect fees associated with those. So it seems like pricing-wise, you would stick with DIA until you got to some certain, and I guess maybe that's the size. Maybe when people hit like 400, they're making enough in revenue where that makes sense. Or, you know what I mean? Like normally when you get a DIA contract, what are you signing? Like a 3-year? Something like that? So maybe whenever they get to around that number, they're hitting that 3-year mark. So, hey, we either re-sign or we, move to some place with better connectivity. So maybe that's kind of what's going on there.
And it kind of depends, like most things, it depends on your location, your market, what the operators in your area are doing. But I've seen many operators that would price their services like if you wanted DIA cost was transport plus transit. Like they just broke it down and they gave you a reasonable price for transport and a reasonable price for DIA, but it was the two of them added together. And so it's like, why would I ever do that? And then there are others that actually price DIA lower than their transport.
That's what I ran into with the last circuit I bought for my apartment complex. It was actually far less expensive for me to just buy DIA from them than it was to actually transport to a data center.
Yeah, for those, I assume that many of those are cheaper for DIA because there's a significant oversell going on. Because with transport, your pipe is full. Like, they've carved out a gig point to point for you. DIA, not necessarily. And so they can put more of you on. Not as bad as like a residential type operator, but they can put 2, 3, 4 guys in the same space, and you may have some quality concerns. Not necessarily. If your market's fed by a 100 gig pipe, they can put a lot of you in there before anybody notices. But it kind of varies. But I was really shocked to like, if I had known ahead of time that 0 to 500 on both of the poles would just blow out any other option. I would have done a much smaller increment at the beginning, because this is it's incredibly useful to find out that under 500 is when people are making the right moves, as opposed to the couple thousands that people were suggesting. But on the other hand, it's useless because one bracket at the very bottom is just massive. So like, okay, well, I still don't really know, where that breaking point is. Yeah. But
and for anybody to actually switch from DIA to transport, you got to figure that's at least 6-month process, right? So you've got to catch them at 2.5 years and say, hey, here's all the cool things you can get in a data center if they're not already considering it. Because one, it just takes time for that transport piece. 90 days is usually kind of a minimum for a carrier to get transport into a data center, and then you've got to figure out what gear you're going to get. You got to negotiate terms with the data center. You got to do all that crap. So I would think you got to get ahead of these guys. You got to get in front of these guys pretty early on. Or you know what? I would say even where they still have a year left. Just to plant the seed, start talking about the things, let them figure out logistics.
Sure. Yeah. And actually, for both poles, they're the same categories are the same. Are kind of in the same order. 0 to 500 is most, 1,001 to 2,000 is second, and 501 to 1,000 is third.
Yeah, that's surprising. Wouldn't have thought that. I guess people are more on the ball than you expected.
Yeah, by a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like they have their crap a lot more together than you do, bud. And so that this kind of also provides a bit of a different point for us in assumptions on things we talk about and where people are. I had kind of operated the assumption that most operators were probably just getting DIA, and that they, transport to the data center, and how the data centers worked and all that was obscure to them. But looking like this, most of them already know that, so that they may not know may not know what they're doing as well as they would like, but they're at least at that table. Well, now that I don't work for a data center anymore, perhaps we could talk one of these episodes more about things you specifically need to look for, the way you should word things you definitely need to ask for, where you can where you can push back, where you can get more back from people. Yeah, I don't. They don't feed my family anymore, so I guess I can give away some of the secrets.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and then I assume that there's going to be some brackets to where that's applicable. Some of these guys are just going to screw you no matter what you do.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's supply and demand, right? If there's only one data center that you can feasibly get to, then you may not have a lot of bargaining. If you're going into like Dallas, where you can't walk 20 blocks without bumping into another data center, you've probably got more options, right? You got more leverage. So I think a lot of it has to do with that.
Well, and I suppose also, in a general sense, are you looking for network connectivity, or are you looking for a place to put general compute and storage?
Right.
On general compute and storage, you can put, that's a lot more competitive market, because you can just put that anywhere. Network, in Chicago, you got to be in 350 Cermak. In LA, you got to be in one Wilshire. In Dallas, you got to be in 1950 Stemmons, or there's one other one I forget, something Brian. So, yeah, if you're in one of those buildings and you're looking for connectivity, everything connectivity-wise is going to rake you over the coals.
I don't know. I've been it's the same. Like in Houston, it was 666 Walker, but I've started learning that, especially in like saturated markets like Dallas, the smaller operators are pulling dark fiber into those. So like pretty much everybody's got connectivity in a 1950 Stemmons. They've got dark in there if you're another colo provider of some sort. So you actually don't have to physically go in there to still hit the folks in there. So you can, I can tell you 1950 Stemmons, if you go into the Equinix, that is some of the worst data center experience I've ever had. They have the worst customer service I would put them behind AT&T. I would say AT&T has better customer service than Equinix does. They're trash, to be honest with you. If you want them to do anything, it is such a pain, and it costs you so much money. And they're, I can't say enough bad things about them, other than the fact they have amazing connectivity there, right? That's where everybody is. That's where everybody is. But I've learned that some of the other colo providers, one is they're going to be cheaper. Two, customer service is amazing. Three, they're much more responsive. And I just don't have time to mess with that other stuff.
Yeah, other than great connectivity at most of at a lot of the legacy facilities. Now they've been buying lots of stuff that may not necessarily be the carrier hotel of the market, but one other thing that I've found, at least in Chicago, is that their cross-connect delivery and support is very good.
That's good.
I placed an order on a Saturday afternoon one time for a cross-connect, and it was done on Sunday.
That's good. Equinix has not been good for me.
Not urgent or anything, just a standard order, and they just did it the next day on a weekend. Now everything else involved with Equinix, yes, it's been terrible.
Yeah.
Almost unilaterally, everything else has been terrible. But that one thing has worked pretty well for us in Chicago.
That's good. I would definitely say look for some of those periphery providers. Don't necessarily always look for the big boys. See if the periphery providers can still get you dark fiber in, because also those smaller providers generally have a blended DIA product inside, so you can get that very inexpensively and then still get your transport to another carrier or an internet exchange or whatever you want to get to fairly inexpensively. So I would definitely say take a look at that. And also, who else is doing it? So there's what is it? What's that company? They started in Australia. They do Megaport, yeah. Megaport nodes. They're really starting to pop into a lot of different data centers. I think Cyrus One, has deals with them. I think Equinix has deals with them. There's other kind of smaller providers in various areas. So those guys actually do transport on like a 10 gig port. I think they do it for what is it? Like $250, $300. It's like $500 or less. You get a full 10 gig to kind of anywhere you want to go within region. So if you're in kind of a data center that has one of those, you want to get some diversity, it's a really inexpensive way of doing it. And they also have some exchanges you can hit, and then you can hit cloud providers if that's your bag. But most of the folks we're listening to, they have eyeballs. They're looking for content providers, right? They're not trying to get a direct peering with Azure or AWS. So that's definitely a good trend. I mean, there's so many, like you said it, Mike, if you get into a data center, you've got a lot more options, right? There's just a lot more available to you. And you're, but then again, if you're out in rural nowhere, there may not be a lot of options for you to transport to get there. So you might get raked over the coals anyway. And really, you're looking for diversity. So even if you pull DIA from one carrier and transport with another to your data center, so be it, right? You need some redundancy of some kind. So can't put all those eggs in one basket.
But in terms of the fiber availability and fiber diversity, that's only getting better as, riding on the coattails of the mobile industry. Over the past 10 years, it's dramatically shifted the amount of the U.S. that's going to have, multiple, middle mile / long haul fiber providers. And it's only going to accelerate over the next 10 years as, the microwave networks that a lot of them have been building in the rural areas, no longer carry enough traffic. There's been a lot of, microwave links put up by these guys that, they carry 500-600 megs to a tower. But not even going 5G, just a modern 4G setup of a Sprint tower will move like 2 gigs. So what are you going to do with that over microwave? Use up all the spectrum. So they're, having to build fiber. So, Verizon's building most of it's their own. MCI is doing the build, which is a Verizon acquisition. And so, I'm sure Verizon Business would be glad to sell you a circuit if you want to pay for it and deal with Verizon. Could be another conversation. But
I've had a lot of luck with like circuit resellers, guys that they're going to go out and do the work for you, compare the costs and all that stuff. Because a lot of them keep tabs on who is running fiber. So like in my area, I just know it because I've been here for a long time. But you have folks like BVCOG, Brazos Valley Council of Governments. They ran a big fiber ring around here, and if you weren't like connected to that project somehow, you would have no visibility into that. And they're giving pretty good rates on that fiber. And then you have like FiberLight, who they cut their teeth. I can't remember whose towers, but they were cell towers that they were lighting up. And so as they were running connectivity tower to tower, they were running their own fiber alongside of it and then reselling services off of that, right? So if you didn't know those guys, weren't familiar with them, you wouldn't even think to call them. So there might be a lot of fiber in your area, or when those guys are starting to greenfield run fiber, those circuit resellers are I've found to be the best options. I only know the folks in my area because I'm right here, but if I was anywhere outside of this little bubble, I would definitely reach out to some folks that are more versed in this stuff. And what aggravates me too is I'll call these guys and I'll call my contact at like FiberLight, and I'll get a quote. FiberLight will come in at X dollars, and my circuit reseller will come in at Y, and my reseller's cheaper, and it just aggravates me. It's like, why are you doing this to me?
Sure. Yeah. I've not been doing a lot of maintenance on this lately because I've been busy with actual work, but I just kind of zoomed into Texas on my listing of, or my mapping of fiber. And, there's some dead spots, for sure. But, there's a lot of areas that have just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Oh, and then these orange ones are the Starlink Earth stations, and then their coverage radius from there.
Nice. Let's not even talk about Starlink. The new WISP talk, aka Starlink talk.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to the more discussion portion here. Sean Scarfo, from Florida. Let's first let's just hear a little bit about you. What's your background? Where'd you come from, and how'd you get to where you are now?
Oh my. Shoot. Let's just say back in 2014, I started with a VoIP reseller who used to resell Broadsoft, and cut my teeth on everything voice there. Really honed my networking skills, learned everything from the ground up. Then in 2017, I moved on to a local CLEC and learned a few things there. So I understand a few of the topics you guys address with cross connects and IXs and whatnot. The end of 2017, I moved on to my current employer, who is a medium-sized enterprise. About 20 buildings in the Orlando area, roughly, let's just say 800 employees, and it is my job to keep everything connected and also manage the voice system they have there.
That's fun. So you said you started working for a VoIP provider and you learned networking there. John Osmond always says if you sell VoIP, that the first thing you always have to do is troubleshoot the customer's network. Is that why you learned networking?
Oh, yes. When I came in, myself and another technician was brand new, probably there for 2-3 months. And unfortunately, the owner didn't have any technical skills. He was a straight salesman. He could sell and close deals almost in one sitting, but he didn't know how to maintain customer networks or even how to set up the voice system he was selling. So we had to go ahead and set up monitoring to find out why, hey, someone's coax internet from Spectrum or whatnot keeps falling over. Hey, that's why they're having, bad calls. And then other customers had other internal problems where they're trying to expand their wireless internally, so they would have 3 or 4 actual routers, and wondering why their phones can't communicate with each other.
And where they were natting through all the wireless routers, right?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. That's fun. So then you went to a CLEC. How'd you end up making the jump to a CLEC?
The VoIP provider I worked with actually had a relationship with the CLEC to buy some services. And over the period of 3 years, I got to know the owner of the CLEC, and he lost one of his technicians. And I was looking to make a jump to go somewhere, because that's how it goes. And he's like, hey, I need someone to start Monday. Can you start? I'm like, sure, why not? And so started a crash course in legacy telecom. And I'm talking about like Taqwa legacy. I learned a lot about Taqwa, AdTran, some Sauna stuff, and everything about trying to understand how DSLAMs work. So it was a really crash course, and luckily he still wanted to have me expand my networking skills and sent me to Texas for one of Steve's courses to get my CRE, MT CRE. So I had that in 2017. And then after a power incident at the CLEC, I decided to move on. Unfortunately, what they don't tell you when you start working inside a CLEC is that with negative 48 volts, there is a lot of power there if they're powering everything in their cage. And so he was having both AC and DC power in that location, and some equipment were powered with each. And if you're not careful, you can shock yourself or blow up equipment. And there was a situation there where equipment got blown up and almost shocked the hell out of myself as well as a fellow coworker.
Yeah, that I don't want to divulge too much, but I've been put into positions where I was doing things that I had no business being part of. I didn't feel comfortable in there, but you know what I mean? It's like sometimes you just think to yourself, hey, I got to get this done. And that's never a happy place to be. Especially if you've got anybody that you're responsible for. You know, you've got wife, you've got kids, anybody else that would adversely impact the remainder of their life if something happened to you. So that's good that you found your way out of there for sure.
Yeah.
So you ended up in an enterprise, and you're still doing VoIP, still doing a little bit of networking. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Lots of networking. At our core, we actually have Mikrotik at our core. So each of our sites has dual V+ connections. So we have a V+ connection with one provider, another a VPS connection with another provider. We have dual internet out at our edge. And that comes off a Sonic wall. And just probably towards the end of this year, we're moving to a BGP setup, so we finally bought our first block. So it'll be nice to actually have our own block. So if we ever do make the jump to move into a data center, it's easy as just pick up the devices and plop it to a data center and move on.
That's awesome. That's what I used to tell customers when they were trying to buy or rather rent, I guess, a whole bunch of IPv4 space from us. I would say, if you go and you buy your own from Aaron, then you know this how hard it was for you to leave the last data center. You never have to worry about that again. The addressing always comes with you. And 9 times out of 10, if they had the budget for it, they would go and do it. Yeah, for sure. That's a sound decision. So the real reason we brought you here, and it was, I know, belated on my part, so I apologize, but it was a kind of an open call for anybody who ended up on this thread. And I think there were somewhere around 50, 60 comments, something like that in this thread, which is pretty abnormal for us. But it was about, I can't even remember how you begin the wording. Something like, have you guys ever had a bad day at work? Something along that vein. So would you like to let us know about that a little bit?
Here, I'll elaborate. So at some point, I forgot to put a site into our monitoring. We use SolarWinds for monitoring, and we had a dual WAN outage event. And unfortunately, because we weren't monitoring through that, our leadership thought that it should have been alerted a long time ago before the site staff realized. Site staff comes in at 8, realize everything's down, gives us a call, and of course we start going through our troubleshooting. And less than an hour later, we get the site back up, working as needed. What came from that is because I missed the initial monitoring part, it came to a disciplinary action. And I thought, boy, that's quite a stumble for someone that's been there for 3 years and relatively get good reviews. And I wanted to get some feedback, see how people address that in their own environments. And boy, there was a lot of different reactions. Like, some of them are very interesting and other ones are freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak to my experiences, and so I would never try and retell somebody else's story. One, because my memory is horrible and I would never be able to do it justice, but it's not my story to tell. So, it was probably a month ago. This was just a friend of mine. He posted on Facebook. He said, "I just had a resume generating event." that's how he termed it, and I thought that was pretty brilliant. I'm going to steal that one and remember it. But I remember saying to him, you know what? As bad as it may seem, just wait till tomorrow. You'd be surprised. And he's like, you know what's crazy? The next day, they actually said, you know what? You guys have been understaffed. We've been overworking you. We haven't given you the resources you needed. And we're proud of how you guys reacted to it. So that doesn't sound like the situation you were in, but it's, to me, I've also, so let me just tell you a couple of stories where I broke things, because we've all got them. I remember it was at my...
I don't. No,
yeah,
I
no,
don't.
Never. No, see, Mike's thing is he's never done anything right, so... Buzzing! No, I remember I was...
Can't break it if that's the intended state.
I was a newly minted engineer at Universal Computer Systems back in the day. It was my first kind of real job out of college, and I became the de facto network guy because all the rest of the networking engineers, like all the rest of the networking team, quit. So I became the networking guy. I mean, I had been working towards it. It's just all of a sudden one night, here I am. Now I'm the networking guy. So I was making a change to our core device in our satellite office. So we had College Station and we had Houston, and it supported so they were a car dealership software manufacturer, one of the largest in the U.S. And the world, actually. They ended up buying the largest. Number 3 bought number 1. Anyway, I digress. I was doing maintenance on the network, and I made a change on the 6500. I removed a route map because I was modifying it, and I forgot to pull it off the interface. And when I did that, it bricked, and so I had to have somebody go in there. And I didn't do a change window or anything for that stuff. I just kind of did it at night. I mean, it was like 6 o'clock, so I took down like our call centers and stuff like that. I had somebody go in there and physically unplug the cables and plug them back in. Of course, it came back up, thankfully. So yeah, that was an interesting. Well, that was my first one, and I had to fess up to that one. Like, part of my personality is I used to never want to have anybody question me, like, for my like why am I doing this, why am I doing that. Like, I always wanted to have the answer. I never wanted to screw up, and that was really hard for me, extremely hard. But it took me a long time to kind of get over that mentality. Another one, let's see, what's another fun one? I know I've got a lot. Oh yeah, here was a good one. So there was a data center, an unnamed data center in Houston that I worked for. Nobody will be able to tell. But I was doing this thing where I was migrating the customers there to be peered with their gateway routers instead of the backbones, right? So it was all layer 2 at first, and then I was kind of sort of like pseudo transitioning it to layer 3. So I got them to peer. I did the first customer. Everything was great. Next thing, I get a call like 8:30 in the morning. Hey, we can't get to this one subnet from the internet. So I take a look, and sure enough, it wasn't like redistributing their subnet. So I was like, well, it's kind of air gapped. So I was trying to like get that route on the local gateway to the backbone so everything would work. I was like, okay, I'll just redistribute it into OSPF. Everything will be fine. This was, I think, 9 o'clock when I was making this change, 9 a.m., in the middle of the week. And I inadvertently redistributed all of the BGP route table into OSPF. And quite literally, the entire data center crashed. And this is a data center where we have 100% SLA on internet connectivity. So it went hard down. And everything was down. I had to just call one of the guys in Houston, because I wasn't there, on my cell phone and say, hey, would you mind going in there and unplugging both of the backbone routers right now, and then wait 10 seconds, plug them back in, and then turn them on. And thankfully, they both came up. I say thankfully because I've had incidents where I was in a maintenance window and did like a software upgrade, rebooted, and they didn't come back up. Stuff like that happens. But anyway, there was a lot of fallout from that. Eventually, they called in a third-party company to review the incident, and then to review all of my configurations and kind of evaluate me as an engineer in general. And I felt like I was going to vomit for probably 2 weeks straight. After that, like, I was just so upset about it, and I didn't really, I don't know, I was just expecting them to fire me every day. And they looked at my configurations, and they said, yeah, everything looks fine. And they basically said, yeah, you just screwed up. You shouldn't have been doing that in the middle of the day. And, standard old fat finger. So that was a really big one for me, because we ended up paying out SLAs to a bunch of customers. Probably my salary or more were paid out that month in SLAs. Right? Yeah. So it wasn't an insubstantial amount of money, because some of these people, like, if they're clever, they tie it into their contract so that if we have, and only the bigger guys get to do this, which means it's a higher dollar value. But if we have a failure of any kind, right, in their contract, then we pay them back for everything, not just the internet connectivity, but everything. So it was pretty traumatic in there to see dollar values that big go out the door because I made a little oopsie. And there was never any formal thing, and I don't think there had to be, because I was pretty sure, it was pretty clear that if that company didn't clear me, then I was going to be fired. So I sort of made it by the skin of my teeth. But you know what? I think everybody needs to make mistakes. Everybody should be allowed space to make mistakes and understand that anything that is of man, done by man, is prone to fail. I think really is just, can you... now, if you make the same mistake 3 weeks in a row, that's probably something that needs to have serious action taken against it, right? But everybody's going to fail, and that's what I would tell all my new engineers too. It's like, you're going to fail. Everything's going to go wrong, and you're going to fold, and you're not going to know what to do, and you're just going to freak out. And it happened to every one of them. You know, it's like whenever you get into that mode where everything's failing, the fight or flight kicks in, the blood leaves your brain, which is right where you need it to be, is in your head, not in your extremities. And it's tough. But I would always try and help them fail in a controlled environment, right? So that they could learn that this failed. And, you know, and I would kind of look forward to the day that they would break a production thing, so that they would realize, hey, I broke a thing in production, and now I survived this, and I'm okay, and I can move forward. You know, I think it's a big, important thing for all of us. But you know what? I've had management that didn't really understand that, and they didn't accept that. You know, and it's generally people. I found that it's generally people that have never had real stress applied upon them the way we do. You know, in our IT environments, it was usually people that never came up through IT that didn't understand it, and I don't fault them for that. You know what I mean? It's like they, you know, how can you describe a color to somebody that's never seen it? You know what I mean? It's sort of, it's a difficult thing. So I thought that was actually pretty apropos, and I liked how a ton of people started chiming in with their own failures and how they've reacted and responded. And now that you've got a little distance from it, do you feel any different about it?
After having, you know, some conversations with, you know, some fellow coworkers and friends and whatnot, in the end, you know, I'm just doing the best I can. You know, I'm a one-man show for the networking and voice component, and sometimes, you know, I'm working from 7 in the morning to 9 at night, you know, Monday through Friday, and I see that there could be some better processes put in place, maybe to automate a few things. You know, that way, once it goes online, I hit a button and it automatically puts things into monitoring. But if it's a big issue, you know, I wish, you know, my employer would, you know, speak with me about this earlier if there was other concern.
Yeah.
And I've made other larger mistakes causing production outages from doing a fat finger mistake. Like the one incident that comes to mind is we had a scheduled maintenance window at, I think it was like at 12:45, and we were going to cut over and swap out to some new core switches. And I'm getting everything ready, got things prepped, got things in the rack, and I have to change over some VLANs. So I'm getting my commands all set in Notepad and stuff, and I go in there and try to see, you know, how much I can prep. And I put one more command in to add a VLAN, and of course, instead of just adding it as a tagged, added it in as an untagged VLAN and took everything down in one keystroke. And when that happens, it's like your heart is racing. Like, I need to get this back up as soon as possible. And your hands are shaking.
You sweat instantly,
and
luckily,
right? Instant sweat.
Yeah.
Like, probably the most, you know, heart attack inducing moment of my life. But within like 15 minutes, I got it back up, and everything was hunky dory, and nothing was said. I'm like, okay, great, move on. And then our maintenance window went as smooth as expected. So I hope others can, have a safe environment to fail in. And I'm a proponent of fail forward. Like, I've learned more from falling over than I have from all my wins. Any kind of win or success, like, okay, great, I can repeat something. I can replicate it. But I didn't learn anything new from that. Only way I have to learn is, stub my toe on something and do better at it.
Yeah. I used to have a saying that goes, no change window goes unpunished. So something's going to go wrong. And so whenever the rare occasion a change window would go completely smooth, I'd be terrified. Like, sometimes I would even have trouble sleeping the rest of the night because it was like, what did I miss? Something went wrong. I just don't know what it was. And, if it's a small enough change, that happens. Sometimes you get lucky. Usually I would get lucky and the thing would be big right off the bat, in the maintenance window. Like, oh, there's a bad optic we're trying to move to. Swap it out. All right, good. Now I can feel good about everything. But, it's just, that stuff happens. And I don't know. Somebody that's never been in that position, it's hard to describe that to them. Something I used to do too is I would be in pain and silence. Like, I was afraid to tell anybody, hey, there was a good chunk of time at my previous employer where I was the only network engineer for, I think, 2 years, 3 years, maybe 4, maybe even. And of being on call 24/7 with 100% SLA, that was killing me. It was literally killing me, but I wouldn't say anything. Like, ulcers, all that stuff. Just because I'm also a worrier on top of all that. So I found that too, if you clearly indicate to your employers what you need, right? You're not supplying me with all the tools required to complete my job. Or, if you're not saying that, then I kind of blame myself for toiling, in so much pain for so long, is because I didn't make it clearly known. I mean, I would say, what, I could use some help. And they would say, oh, well, it's not really in the budget right now. I'd say, okay. And then I would just go back to grinding it out, and so part of that's on me because, I am the only one responsible for my happiness, right? And my well-being. It's not my employer's job to make me happy. They're not really concerned with that. They really just want, more ones and zeros coming from me, in a steady stream, uninterrupted. And I get that. And so part of that is, hey, for me to be, as resilient as possible, for me to be happy and want to stay here, I'm going to need some additional assistance. If you want to lower failure rates, I'm going to need help, right? I can't do all this stuff on my own. And I'm not saying that's the case for you, but maybe there's a couple of people listening to this that probably need to hear that if you need a thing, ask for that thing. I've had some people just complain to me that, like, they didn't like the kind of coffee that was in the break room, right? That it was like, this is the hill you want to die on right now. It's like, this is the thing, that's like that you're gonna jump off a building for. It's like, all right, that's okay. Everybody's got something different, but genuinely, if you need help, I found that employers, and you make it absolutely clear that's like, in the data center environment, you could say, well, I needed help for a really long time. It did take me a long time to convince them to, they have different management now, right? There was different management then, and they just didn't understand. I was like, this is a data center. We're supposed to have redundancy, right? We have 3 UPSs. We have 3 generators. You have 1 network engineer. What happens when I get hit by a bus? And to be honest with you, in networking, I feel like a lot of our careers are just a series of near misses. You know what I mean? It's like somehow, by some magic, we were able to pull some crazy stuff out of our butts within, like you said, 15 minutes. Like, you got it back up, or a thing will fail and you will spend all night long and you will fix that thing, right? And you'll get it up 5 minutes before the call center opens. It's like, that probably should not have transpired, right? So a series of near misses, is the only thing that separates you between, real monetary disaster, why is it so crazy to think that you shouldn't have redundancy in your people as well? And then maybe you shouldn't treat your people like, a barcode, where you can go and pick out another widget, because you can't just do that. Like, especially with engineers, there's so much tribal knowledge. For you being there 3 years, you have a lot of tribal knowledge in your head that even if you try to document it all, a new network engineer's, he's still going to be figuring out all the gremlins a year from now. And I kind of pity the guys that took over for me at the data center, because they've got so many gremlins they've got to work out. I did a lot of documenting, but you know what I mean? It's like you just, it's like your car. All the sounds your car makes. So when it makes this slightly different sounds, something's up. And it's the same thing with a network, right? You learn its hum. You kind of, when things are normal, when they're not. So it's funny how employers can kind of gloss over that point. But you know what? Do you think in an average company that there are other positions that are as unique as, say, like the IT infrastructure folks? Right? Because like HR, I feel like that's a pretty generic widget you can replace. I mean, I don't know that that's 100% the case, but I think it probably is. And accounting, that's probably a widget you can replace. Right? Not without some trouble. I mean, there's going to be some friction there. But if, like, small shops where you've got an IT guy that's doing your VoIP, your networking, and God knows what else, that's not really a super replaceable widget. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, and also, Mikey, I haven't heard you talk about some of your major failures.
So you're right in that it's not a super replaceable widget, because I've been trying to find widgets, and have not been. I mean, I found half of a widget. I needed 2, and I found half.
All right.
But in terms of my failures, I know I've had them, because I know there's been times when I've, instantly sweated, whatnot. I just can't think of the details. I suppose it's a situation of, it was tragic, and so my mind just blocked it out. But I can speak to the tragedy that one of my guys caused this past week or weekend, fresh in my mind, because we're still cleaning up. So we've been rolling out Unify as a managed infrastructure service for small businesses. We'll stick in a USG and a switch and an access point or 2 or a couple switches depending on the layout. You pay me varying amounts based on what the actual cost of the equipment is per month, and we manage that. If there's any issues, we will replace that. And it's been a learning process of things we can tweak, things we can make better. Earlier this year, I kind of forced one of my guys to, okay, we're not doing things all that well in terms of organization. I want you to open a Word document in one window and build a whole environment from scratch in the other window, and then send me that Word document so I can review it. I can find things that we should be doing differently. I can find things that we shouldn't be doing, find things that we should be doing. Build a document so that we have consistency amongst our deployments. And that was a struggle. And we got it. And then they didn't use the document that we created. So we still had inconsistency. And so last weekend, one of the technicians, since the other one wasn't cleaning up his mess, the other one's like, okay, I'll just fix all of them, so that we keep having, or stop having these random little things that would have been not a problem if. And he decided to go beyond what the documentation laid out for all the things we needed to have done. He decided, let's throw in a couple more VLANs, let's put Wi-Fi in its own VLAN, let's put all the PCs on a different VLAN, which would be fine if we had tested and communicated and whatnot. But Monday morning, one of our major, well, he's major for our area. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but a major law firm for our area, was like, hey, nothing works. And I'm looking at, like, I go check. Everything says it's up. No, we can't do anything. And then I discovered, oh, there's these extra VLANs. Oh, there's this extra this, there's extra that. And as it turns out, on the more sure enough, all the more complicated customers had almost complete failures across the board because they had static IPs. They had DHCP reservations set for certain things. They had various other nuances that weren't considered in the let's move all the PCs to this other VLAN. And so then all of a sudden they couldn't print. They couldn't, various internal applications just didn't work. Email worked and, browsing worked, but nothing else that they would use internally worked.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, because there's another disaster that happened that day too, so that made it even better. It was unrelated. So at the end of the day, I sent my 2 texts and email, like, I'm not throwing anybody to the bus, but if we don't point out the things that went wrong, we're never going to be able to fix them. One email to each. I was like, okay, Bill, this is what you did wrong on this project. Like, just, and then this project, this is where you did wrong. Jim, same thing. This is where you did wrong. Yes, Bill didn't do his thing right to begin with, but then you compounded that issue. And at the, in response to that, both of them said, thank you for just being forward with the things that I didn't do well. And then they, on the cleanup, they still didn't really do what I wanted to do for the cleanup. So I had to go in and kind of do some things. But, next week, I said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have lunch. And then all afternoon, you're going to take your, Unify home labs. You're going to reset to default every machine or, every box. You're going to delete your site out of Unify. You're going to build it all from scratch. And if there's anything that you don't understand the complete ins and outs of in terms of how it works, why we do it, you tell me then. Because it's obvious that for some of the things, you don't even understand why we do it. We do this. And so how can I expect you to do things correctly when you don't even understand why that we're doing it? So there's that mood set for the past week. And then, I set up for, next week to then do let's do some, lab work and, let's get all this figured out. I don't have time to take an afternoon off, but I also don't have time for my guys to be screwing stuff up.
All right. Well, I've got, that actually raised a couple of questions. I made some notes for myself. First one I'm going to ask is, so Mike, does that mean you only talk to your guys when they screw up on stuff? Like, how good are you about saying, man, you did a good job on this, you did solid on that? I mean, how are, like, just random praise? Are you good at that?
Sure. I try to be aware of that. I have no idea how successful I am at it because no one says anything. I mean, so that's something I should ask them.
Am I saying enough nice things? They're probably not gonna like say.
It's well, I mean, one's gonna respond with some memes. Even if we're in person, he's still gonna Google some memes and show them to me. No, but and so I'm assuming that I'm not doing that well enough because I assume that I'm not doing all aspects of my job well enough. But also the entire company knows that I'm doing the work of 4 people.
Yeah.
Last week not only was I reeling from the technical issues, but I was also then having to manage the entire company in terms of responses, reactions, criticisms of things that was going on.
No accusations here, man. No shade. I'm just asking questions. That's all, man. Because it's like, that's something I used to struggle with too. It's like I sometimes when I would just get kind of my head down and I would get into the routine, I would only tell people when they fucked up, and that is not because I then later realized that when people only tell me when I do bad, that's not really great for me.
Sure. Yeah, well, like I mentioned that to say that I don't know without severe prodding that my guys would tell me I did something bad.
Oh. Well, it's interesting.
Other than being drastically bad, because they're having pity on me for my bad situation of being incredibly overworked. Yeah. So they're probably not going to tell me unless I force them. What have I done wrong?
Way I heard it one time is they said, so, you think you have a good relationship with your employees. Do you think they, clearly communicate with you and tell you, all of the things? And you said, well, yeah, I feel like I, have a good relationship with them. And then you say to that person, okay, well, do you tell your boss absolutely everything? And the answer is obviously no. I don't always tell them, so it's the same thing with your employees.
Sure.
So that was one of the hard lessons for me is it's like, you got to remember that they're humans just like you. What I actually did sometimes is like, if I had to do a human thing, sometimes I would set reoccurring reminders. I know that makes me seem like more of a robot, but you know what I mean? It's like,
I do the same thing.
We get our heads down and sometimes you forget to do that stuff. So what would you say, Sean? Do you guys get regular feedback, positive and or negative, or?
We're supposed to. I'd say we get like one in our specific environment. We get like one annual review plus one additional quarterly review. It should be every quarter. We're supposed to have a review or a coaching session, but luckily for the most part, our team has weekly meetings. So we check in to see what kind of projects we have going on, what kind of problems we see out there, what kind of successes, what kind of things we got cleared off the board. That way, nothing's too far out of touch. And that if anyone needs anything particular, a lot of times our team will speak up and say, hey, I need examples of this, or hey, if this is a broken part, I need to know about this so I can order the part. We're very fortunate about that. In regards to like honest feedback, anytime I'm kind of the opposite of Mike, where I'm always saying thank you to people for doing what they're supposed to do anyways.
Yes, yeah.
Because I've been in the hot seat before where like you feel like it's a thankless job, and if you do the job well, it should just be a simple thank you and everybody feels good and moves on. And in regards to the other way, it's always an uncomfortable situation where I have to sit down with someone and say, hey, we expected this, you did that, let's change that. Mm-hmm. And it's always an uncomfortable conversation. And we had a situation last week where I had to go to a site to find out why our phone system wasn't be able to communicate with our overhead paging system. And if it doesn't have a good solid connection, the port on the VoIP system will just show offline, completely offline. So I get to the site, go straight to the voice switch, and discover the Amphenol connector's loose. So I have to slam the Amphenol connector back in, put the strap back on, and reset the port, and it instantly works. And then as I'm doing that, I look at the rest of the rack, and we have a particular rack wiring scheme where certain cables go to the left, certain cables go to the right, because that's how it is on the switch. It makes it a lot easier to route to the switch too. and there was cables all kind of mismatched, going all kinds of different ways. Some going just straight over the rack, hanging down like spaghetti. I'm like, I tore apart this room, spent 6 hours in it when I had to put the new switches in, and now it's starting to get back to where it not has to be. So I have to now set up a training session with a couple of my team members and say, okay, here's our example of a rack. I want you, here's a paper of how we normally do it. I want you to go ahead and show me how you would do it. And that way I can course correct, because a lot of people haven't been with me in the trenches. You know, when I was swapping out one of the site's switches and doing a network changeover, I was there till 1 o'clock in the morning, just because there's so many endpoints. And it takes forever, but if you take your time and do it right, and you get the cabling done right, it makes life a lot easier to triage it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stick to a standard. That's tough. That's tough when people screw up. But you know what? That's something else I learned. So there was some of the more important things for me is I found this podcast, and I don't listen to it as much as I did at first, but it was called Manager Tools. And one of the things they talked about was one-on-ones with your directs. And I found that to be so useful. It was very eye-opening for me because nobody had ever done that with me. So I set it up with my direct reports that every week we'd pick a time and we'd have a one-on-one session. It was usually just 30 minutes. And the whole premise was I would sit down with them and I would say, so what's going on? And I remember when we very first started, there was like the fire hose. There's a lot of stuff, that they would tell me, because it was just like, what's going on with you? Like it could be, I'm thinking about moving to a new house, or, we're getting a new dog, or my cat's sick, whatever it happens to be, because, lo and behold, people bring things to work with them. Like if a guy's getting a divorce, you probably need to know that, because he's probably gonna be impacted in some, you know what I mean? It's like major life things, they bring that with them. And as those folks get more comfortable talking to you, they are going to feel more comfortable saying, hey, like I'm crazy stressed right now because of this project and I've run into this little wall. And so that became really good for me. And so I would say it was 30 minutes and they would tell me whatever they wanted to. And if they ate up the whole time, that's fine. I would never say a word. I would just listen. But then after the 2-3 weeks, right at the beginning, then they would taper off, and then at the end I would have things, and I would tell them, and we'd start going back and forth. And I found that if I had to wait till their annual review, we'd do them once a year. One is I couldn't wait 8 months for them to finally feel comfortable to tell me something happened, or you know what I mean. So it's like we just developed a rapport and really an open line of communication that if we just met 30 minutes once a week, we ironed out everything. There were no problems. And then they got so much more comfortable doing those touch points. So if they ever ran into and that's what I always say, just clear communication. If you ever run into a project that you're having issues with, you hit a roadblock of any kind, let me know. That's all. I just need to know. It's fine that it doesn't get finished today. I just have to know about it. And so they would get so comfortable with that we would develop this. And I was thinking probably now more than ever that all these people are spread out and doing all this remote stuff, it's probably more important now for that kind of communication piece. And if it's on the calendar, I would always try and commit to it, like not really let anything eat that time. So that was super important for me with my directs. And I had always kind of I remember at one of our big annual, or maybe it was a quarterly meeting, like a business review that we were doing, I was telling my direct, the guy that ran the company, that was really successful for me. He was like, oh, that's good. And then it was like he wasn't interested in doing it. I was like, okay, well that's all right too, I guess. So it's not everybody's interested in evolving or developing. But I think that's to me just little feedback. Hey, you're doing a good job on this. Did a good job on that. It's amazing how much loyalty you gain from people when they know that you value what they're doing. When you see it, it's like, hey man, you've been super consistent. You kicked ass on that project. You did great there. You don't have to pat them on the back every day, but every few days or once a week usually goes a long way. It's surprising.
Oh yeah, and I've actually, because of that event that happened this past weekend, that actually segues into some of that as well. First, somebody created some more drama with that.
You can say Mike created more drama. I get it. You have to speak in the third person there.
So was it Thursday night? I got a call from one of my guys saying, I don't remember exactly what it was he asked me, but either it was, are you firing me, or am I being replaced, or something like that. I'm like, not that I'm aware of, and I'm pretty much running the show, so why? So as it turns out, the guy above me, who was mostly a figurehead, he recognized that, due to that mistake of the previous weekend, that, we don't have enough people, enough resources. So then he took my other, my other guy, not the guy that called me, Friday morning, and said, I need you to, on Thursday morning, I need you to cancel what we're doing today and place a bunch of job postings because we need more help. Oh, by the way, send it to your cell phone instead of the company, and blah, 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 because we don't want to spook Bill.
Oh, God.
In the past, Bill's been spooked by things, and, we aren't, we just don't need that drama now. So don't tell anyone.
So it never crossed his mind to just have a conversation with Bill and say those exact things?
Or have a conversation with Mike?
Yeah. Oh, well,
I had no idea.
Exactly.
Lord have mercy.
And so what happened was that somebody saw the posting, called in, call center person had no idea, so they called, my one tech who did the thing the previous weekend had no idea, so then he calls me. I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And the guy above me's, out of the country right now, so I can't just get him.
Oh, yeah. I would have assumed you were replacing me as well. Yeah.
And so then I spent 4 or 5 hours that night digging through call logs, call recordings in the PBX, because there was claims that people were deleting call recordings that had useful information. I'm looking through, first I searched, because several of them have shared their inboxes to me or told me, just add it to your box, do whatever you need to do. I don't care. And I didn't find anything from Indeed, but then maybe they deleted it. So I go into 365, into the, message tracing tools, and show me everything from Indeed.com in the past 90 days. And I'm doing crap like that. What is going on? I can't find anything substantial after listening to call records. I mean, I heard something going on with recordings, but it wasn't, it was too vague to know anything. So I just emailed the guy above me. Is there something I should know about? And he's like, no, not. Yeah. And then he called me right away, and then so we talked for a long time. I didn't want to spook Bill, blah blah blah. And then that night, Bill, because I had multiple conversations with him, because I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on, or hey, I talked to the other guy, this is what's going on, and he was like, no one's ever done that for me before. I've always just, no one's cared enough about my position in any company to then verify what the hell's going on. And as it turns out, of course everybody's now frustrated with the guy above me, because it's everything you did was wrong. Other than trying to take the load off of me, everything in that process was wrong. And you scared my guy to where he took Friday off, because he's like, I couldn't sleep all night, even though I knew I was okay. Yeah. I just couldn't. And so through all this, the reason that the original, or the guy above me did all that, was because he thought that my two guys were not getting along, and or even stronger than that. And as I talked to each of them directly, it's like, No. I mean, we've had some differences, but no, I mean, he's another guy I work with. You know, we do stuff. Sometimes things don't work out. So that's what I was like. The underlying source of all this is that we haven't spent enough time together with just us in months. Well, the one guy was hired in March, so you know he wasn't even around pre-COVID. It's like, all right, so we're gonna have a lunch, get everybody squared away, and then every week we're gonna meet for lunch and just talk over lunch, because this whole thing came down to just people weren't
communicating. Yeah. I'd say that plus, you know, an interaction with just you and the individual would probably be good too. Regularly.
Sure. Oh yeah, and so you know, what I may end up doing, you know, 'cause that's what I had planned so far. But after hearing your comments, like, okay, you know, maybe I'll move the, you know, because I only have so much time, so move the group thing to every other week, and then on the off week to the individuals. You know, man. I'll meet you for lunch on Tuesday, meet you for lunch, you know, lunch on Thursday. Because you know, there's a lot of things that didn't pan out. There's a lot of things that would have not panned out even if we had been talking, but you know, the lack of communication was a definite problem.
Yeah. And if it's like,
that just made things.
If it's 1 hour every week that it costs you total, or 1 hour every 2 weeks, I mean, that could save you a lot. You know, just that little bit of time. So something else I was curious about is at my former employer, and I still kind of keep this mindset, is we developed a system of after actions. So whenever there was a major failure of some sort, we would do quote unquote after action. So we would sit down, we'd have somebody develop a timeline of everything that happened in sequence, and then we would just sit there and talk about it. And at first, like the very first time somebody would screw up, they would feel like they were terrified, because we're about to have this meeting where we all just talk about how you screwed up. But then they realize that it's a different sort of environment where we really are brainstorming of how can we come up with ways to prevent this in the future, right? Is it a lack of documentation? Do we need a process for this? Has there been, and I was bad about this forever, is there like this assumption of knowledge? Like, you know, you do something for so long that you just assume everybody intrinsically knows how to do it, so you leave out big gaps in the documentation. You know, so if there's some room for improvisation or interpretation in there, you got to kind of guess, then that was on me, right? That's like I didn't do everything right. So sometimes we would discover that stuff, and then occasionally we'd come up with brand new methods of doing things, or we'd, you know, some crazy series of events happened that we had, you know, you never expect that kind of crap to happen. You know, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. So we would then be able to sort of more adequately plan for that stuff in the future. So I was just curious if you guys did after actions on any of your stuff. Like, do you have any, like, there's a failure, is there any formal thing that happens afterwards?
In my environment, nothing formal. It's usually a discussion with, you know, either team members or my direct manager. Will say, hey, can you give me an idea of, you know, the breakdown? You know, what happened? You know, what parts were we missing or whatever? And because what happens for him is he usually gets asked by a VP, right, and the VP wants to have answers. And I try to be as transparent as possible. That way he has the information, and then he can filter out as needed.
Is he a very technical guy? Does he really know what's going on?
Yeah, he's very technical. Probably one of the most technical managers I ever know.
All right, well, that's good, because there's sometimes, you know, it's like I reported to the guy that was the ex-sales guy, and then he was leading the company at the time. So he was not technical at all. So sometimes he would make asks like, I remember one time he said, before I got the forward-looking route optimizers, he said, make sure none of our carriers ever goes down and causes a problem, like our network connections. Make sure that never happens again. You know, it's like, I think level 3 had a peering point in Chicago that had problems, and that like ate a little chunk of our traffic. And he was like, make sure that never happens again. You know what I mean? So it's like, that can be so frustrating when you're talking to somebody who just absolutely has no concept of what you do. So it's good to have some leadership that at least a little bit understands that.
Yeah.
And so for us, we are documentation light to the extreme. Is that I don't think the employees are actually even given a copy of the employee handbook that was created in 2005. But one of my guys, let's just say Steve, he is, he has a background that's where he more understands the importance of the documentation, and so he's been working on generating documentation and policies and procedures, each time something happens. Okay, let's work on something, and it's all a very rough draft, but it's like, let's work on a process that would help stop this from happening. Well, we're so fresh in it that none of it's being enforced because it's just so very green.
Yeah.
And so, we're just working on, as a result of the, last week's problem, we're just now building, change request forms and stuff. It's like, if you're going to make something that's a critical change, at least until I trust you to not screw it up, you're going to have to tell me everything you will change.
I think you should keep that change procedure in place for now until forever, because we used to do that same thing. We would write down our procedures as well as the back out, and then another engineer would have to look at it. A lot of times the other engineers didn't know what I was doing, so they couldn't, it was a little bit higher level than they were trained for, so they just sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go. But
looks good to me.
Yeah, so
and so perhaps once I have enough trust that they won't screw it up, I'll have them trade with each other instead of me, because why don't I just do it? If everything's coming to me, I'll just do it. But at that point, at least one of them should be, enough where you'd be, okay, what, this doesn't look right. Let's go talk to Mike. And then, I've informally done that when we've had like major network outages, not like, somebody screwed up a bunch of VLANs for customers, but, we had no connectivity for a half hour. What happened? I've said, okay, here's, carrier A went down and caused this, and then caused this, and then caused this, and it just took longer for our router to accommodate that problem than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But it's, there's not much formal, and it doesn't happen every time.
Yeah. Yeah, the change procedure is probably a very good one for you guys, I would say. Probably in your, even if, like you said, at the point where those two guys are just exchanging between each other, you at least can still peek in and having some semblance of an idea of what they're fixing to do or what they're attempting, so it helps keep you in the loop. Sure. I know whenever I used to do projects, until the documentation was done, the project wasn't complete. So that's how we enforced it. It's like, you're not done with that project until you have this documentation piece. Now, in break fix, nothing got documented. It's sometimes you would hit break fix and you would just be going ham, and then the next day you'd be so just hung over from the night, that you wouldn't get to it, and then so you kind of missed a day, and then now you're just playing catch up on everything, and so those pieces of documentation didn't always get taken care of. So I definitely understand that. But
as well, in outage mode, nothing's more important than stopping the outage.
Yeah. Stop the bleeding as quick as possible.
And then even if I'm not involved, I could look back and into the SharePoint of all the change orders that we've done and been like, okay, is this step? No, we should never do this. So then hit my guys up, don't do that.
Yeah.
Or it's supposed to randomly check, pick a a site or something and just go through it and look for, when was flagged a change on this day? What happened? There's no documentation for it.
For sure, man. So I know failure isn't fatal. In the moment, it always feels like it is. And even in the immediate aftermath, and then probably for a while, I usually carry stuff with me. I carry it right in my chest, like I can feel it in here, like when I have anxiety or something's going wrong. So I definitely get that. What do you think your takeaways are from all of this, Sean?
I would say do the best I can. Try to, not repeat the same mistakes, and that bigger mistakes have been made in bigger environments, and I will take life as it comes.
Yes, yeah. I will continue to make mistakes. I will just attempt to make them small ones.
Probably even bigger.
Yeah. I'll attempt to make them small ones, and I will mitigate them, and I will try not to repeat the same ones. That's all the best. That's the best you can ask of anyone, is just do your best. Try not to make the same mistakes over and over, and let's all work together to move forward. Lord.
Yep.
Well, do you guys have any major pressing thoughts? We're at 1 hour and 40 minutes, so this is usually where we stick the fork in.
Yeah, my only pressing thought is my wife asked me if I was almost done 45 minutes ago.
Well, let's all go eat dinner. I guess it's pretty late for you, Sean. So, Sean Scarfo, if folks out on the internet wanted to get a hold of you in some fashion, how would you have them do that?
Probably the best way is through Reddit. My handle on Reddit is DJ Gizmo, and I pop up in the Mikrotik sub all the time. Like, someone pops up with a problem, I'm usually commenting in there. Also in the Slack. If you reach out to me, I will typically respond within a few minutes.
Wicked. All right, Mikey, how are people getting a hold of you out on the internet?
I think I had something clever to say last week, and I was trying to think of what it was, and I can't, so I'll just fall back to the, as per half of the conversation today, I'm really busy. Don't. Just go to patreon.com/brotherswisp. And maybe someone like Sean will help you out.
Yeah, don't find Mike, he'll find you. That's what it boils down to. Well, if you guys want to get a hold of me, it's greg@gregsoul.com. That's my email address. You can go to gregsoul.com, where I am extremely regularly blogging now because I'm doing so many new things that I have to document it. We were talking about documenting stuff. That's what I do constantly now. And so I'm making blog posts on everything, just so that, what's fun is this week, I know we're wrapping it up, but I'm going to give a quick story, is I gave one of my first real customer presentations on Monday, and it was awesome. And then I had another one on Thursday, and so on Tuesday I was going to tweak some material, and it turns out my server behind me died, which had my entire lab of stuff in there. So I was like, oh, time to rebuild. That's fun. So Red Hat has an official lab for us, so I was rebuilding it there. It really only took me like 6 hours. That's because I had been documenting the hell out of everything and like making blog posts on everything. And Ansible really is like self-documenting. So Ansible like rebuilt a lot of my stuff for me. So it was pretty baller. A chunk of that time was just me like getting the Red Hat lab out like a tunnel back to my stuff, and then re-IPing it because they don't have like network equipment that I can break in that lab, whereas I do here. Anyway, that was pretty fun. So I am very occasionally, or rather very regularly blogging because I definitely need it, and I was so glad I started doing that for sure. What else? You can find me on the Little Brothers Wisp Slack. As Mike said, it's patreon.com/thebrotherswisp. I am pretty good at DMs. I have been so much better about keeping up with folks now, unless of course I'm doing like presentations, then I'm like kind of down and out in Beverly Hills. But other than that, I've been doing that stuff. Questions, comments, keep them coming. Sean, this was so cool for you to come on here. I'm so glad you started that that thread in the Slack. That one was it felt cathartic for me. It felt like I was getting stuff off my chest, and there was a lot of really good stuff in there from other folks, and other folks said that they would be interested, and I just didn't have an amenable time. I think John Osmond was trying, as well as Simon over in the UK, but it's like midnight for that. Well, it's like 2 or 3 in the morning now for him, so it's understandable that he wouldn't jump in. So again, Sean, thank you. Mike, thank you. Listeners, thank you. Questions, comments, keep them coming. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Horrible jokes were loud and annoying, but we're informative facts. We're not disappointing. Just give us a listen, cause fun is the mission. I'm telling you, you don't know what you are missing. Ideas and some good comedy given. If you missed the show already, don't worry, you're forgiven.